I'm proud to be an organic farmer and feel like I'm doing something that's good for the land and is good for consumers.
We have to worry about cross-pollination, because if it doesn't pass muster on purity, why it can't be organic.
At least we have PuraMaize to help us produce a crop that will resist that contamination, and has been successful in my experience in doing so.
PuraMaize is a patented gene system that we've incorporated into a couple of different products that Blue River sells that has the ability to reduce GMO contamination in PuraMaize hybrid fields so that the farmer can harvest GMO-free grain with a much higher assurance than you can in normal situations in the United States. The PuraMaize system is a gene complex. It's not a single gene, and it's a gene system. It doesn't work by blocking pollen flow or stopping pollen flow. It doesn't really have any effect on pollen flow. But what it does do is, as pollen flows into a field of PuraMaize plants, the silks that are in those plants do not readily accept any pollen that doesn't contain the PuraMaize trait in it. So it blocks non-PuraMaize, which, since PuraMaize has not been put into anything that's GMO, you essentially block GMO pollen from contaminating your field of non-GMO corn, or in this case, PuraMaize non-GMO corn. In our data, it would suggest in an overwhelming number of cases, the pollen tube from the PuraMaize pollen grain will achieve fertilization, and the pollen tube from the contaminatory pollen will not. The technical goal was always to make sure that whatever contamination did occur was well below the European standard, which right now is the benchmark. So the European standard is 1/10 of 1%, so 1 in 1,000. The PuraMaize hybrids that we have on the market today quite easily meet that standard.
Organic farmers, like any farmer, has to earn a living.
For the drought we're having, if they all looked like this, we'd have 180 bushel corn.
Most organic farmers are in it for reasons beyond just the money. I think most organic farmers feel a strong commitment to taking care of their land in a sustainable way, so that the land is as good as or better when they eventually leave their piece of land.
I think it's just a nicer way to farm. I mean, I think it's better for our soils, it's better for our health, I think the farmer's health, not being around the chemicals and the fertilizers and that type of thing. It's rewarding, it's profitable. There's lots of good things to say about organic farming, but in order to almost forewarn a person, it is a lot more work. It requires, I think, more dedication to being available to do field work when it needs to be done. Timing is real critical, and it isn't just planting and harvest timing. It's all summer long. You know, after we plant, we're through the field probably 7 more times, and you know, weather depending, but you've got to be there when you can be to do your field work. It's fully pollinated. Corn rows are nice and straight, and this field is our field, and it's organic. And then you see in between our field and the neighbor's field a grass strip, and this is considered our buffer zone that we have to maintain for our organic certification. But corn pollens, and it travels a long distance, and so we're also trying to do other things to keep the GMO pollen out of our corn. And I mean, before PuraMaize, we'd plant at different times so that they pollinate at different times. The problems that contamination can create for us is, I mean, we can, and a lot of times, like I said, we're taking this corn quite a ways to a seller or to a buyer, and if that corn gets rejected for GMO contamination, it's a real problem. I mean, you're paying the trucking both ways, or you're trying to find somewhere else to dump it wherever it went. So it can become an issue.
In our work, we found that no matter what the conditions are, with a little caution, you can be very assured that your PuraMaize field will have very little contamination from GMOs. This gives you a much higher probability that you will meet expectations. For some buyers, that is crucial. If, for example, the company manufactures baby food, and they want to be able to say with complete certainty that when they, or as high a certainty as is practically achievable, that the grain they buy will be non-GMO, so that they can sell what they make all over the world. They can sell it in the United States, where we don't label at this point, but they can also as readily sell it in countries where non-GMO labeling is required, or where GMO foods are not legal at this time.
Every organic buyer or handler is concerned about the purity of the product itself. And so that's their primary concern, because if it doesn't pass muster on purity, why it can't be organic. This is just beginning pollination. That's a little farther along. If PuraMaize is all that we expect it to be, and we hope it to be, then it buys peace of mind. It also buys some opportunity for increased yield, simply because of timing. And so I think it makes management of an organic system much easier, where you're going to use corn in the rotation. We've been working with this red corn, and this is the first time we had enough seed to plant more than about 3 or 4 acres. And we planted 18 acres here. And the advantage of the PuraMaize is that, first of all, we have to isolate the red corn so it won't cross-pollinate with anything else. And the advantage of having the PuraMaize was that we could plant the rest of the field the same day right next to the red corn and not worry about cross-pollination.
Suck cap, suck cap, suck, suck.
The other side of it is the environment, the ecological benefit that you can receive from doing organic production systems. I'm absolutely convinced that if we completely understand nature and the interaction of all the natural systems and the synergisms and the interactions of all the botany and the biochemistry and the microbiology that goes on in the soil structure and the growing environment, that we can get away from what I call agriculture on steroids.
I went to PuraMaize for one basic, simple reason. I wanted to be able to get back growing time. When I was planting other varieties of corn, I would need to wait up to 4, sometimes 5 weeks after everyone else around me had finished planting to try to avoid the pollination window of their crops and my crops. So I was losing, anywhere from 28 to 35 days of growth, which reduces yield too, you know. I don't have to worry, even if I were planting my corn right alongside a genetically modified field of corn, of ever getting any pollen contamination from that field, because the PuraMaize rejects the pollen from that cornfield. Result is the corn remains pure. Any other conventional hybrid that I know of will still accept the pollen from any corn plant, including the GMO ones, and the results are still catastrophic. There's still genetically modified crop that is developed by that. And of course that genie has been released into the atmosphere now, and whether or not it'll ever be contained is hard to say. But at least we have PuraMaize to help us produce a crop that will resist that contamination, and has been successful in my experience in doing so. That's going to make a good crop. I am impressed. I really am. From the get-go and talking with Maury about making PuraMaize available for us farmers, he was very cooperative and shares the same passion, I guess, that I have of making it available so that farmers can have it. And it can be available in both conventional and the organic forms. So that to me is a big step forward.
There's more proprietary in-house research going on to support Blue River than any other organic seed company in the U.S., and I would argue probably more than any other company that is primarily focused on non-GMO corn varieties.
They advertise themselves as being handling strictly organic seed, and to us that was a positive factor, because then you know you didn't have a company that had all kinds of irons in the fire, and we just don't want to pay for a mistake that they would make somewhere as far as having contaminated seed. We just don't want to compromise our integrity as far as grain that we sell.
The support of our customers has made it possible for us to invest in product development and research, and the support of our customers is what has made possible developing products like PuraMaize.
My advice would be look at Blue River. They have a broad array of seeds available.
We had it checked to see whether or not there was any GMO in it, and no GMO, just clean.
It's worth it from a profitability standpoint, but it also makes you feel good inside that you're doing something that you think is right and good for the environment and good for people.